So again, this will be special donation situations that we'll be talking about here today. So before we get started, on your screen you have a GoToWebinar control panel, which has a small red arrow button in the upper, usually left-hand corner, that you can click to either minimize that control panel or maximize it. That will give you access to the features on that control panel if you maximize it, which gives you access to the questions portion on there. I'm joined here today by Joshua Allen, who can answer any questions that you have as we go through our presentation here today. Minimizing that control panel is going to open up enough room so you can kind of have a little more room on your screen to see what we're discussing here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So I'm going to go ahead and begin by launching our donations module, and we're going to start by talking about transferring donations between individuals. Oftentimes, if you make a mistake recording giving in the Church Windows program and you need to make an adjustment to that gift, whether it is to change an amount or change a date for that donation gift, you would oftentimes do that under this browse window right here, using this correct button here at the top. So you can go and you can select a particular gift, use that correct button, and adjust some of the details of that gift. However, if you post a gift that everything is correct about, but you posted it to the wrong person, there's a different feature that's a little easier to work with called transfer donations. So that transfer donations is located here under your Givers tab at the top of the donations window, and it's this button right here where it says transfer donations. When you open up this window, the first thing you're going to want to review is the date range at the very top, which is right here, where you can set sort of when the gift happened. There's a couple of buttons up here at the top that can adjust the year if you want to simply adjust it by calendar year. And then when you've got the date range that you want to use here, you can simply click the Apply Dates button here. So the way this works is it's going to transfer a gift or a series of gifts from the person that you select on the left side underneath where it says From Giver to the person's record that you select on the right side underneath where it says To Giver. So for the example we're going to show in our presentation here today, we're going to use Miss Jane Knox, giver number 12, underneath where it says From Giver as well as To Giver. This is a search box where you can search by either number or by name. I'm just typing in Jane's giver number 12, and you'll see her listed here below. When you select her name, you'll see a list of all of the gifts from that person in the date range that you've selected at the top. For To Giver, I'm going to go ahead and select her son, Nate Knox. And I used last name to do the search there. Now, when you want to transfer a gift from one user to another on this screen, note what you want to be looking at are these check boxes underneath the column that says Select here. It's not which of the gifts you have highlighted on your screen, it's which of these is checked on here. So in my example, this gift on the 12th of February, and I can expand it by clicking on the small plus button, which is a $25 gift to the general fund, was incorrectly posted to her record, and it should be posted to her son, Nate's record. When you have that gift selected, you click your Transfer Selected button. It gives you this message. Now what it does, due to auditing in the donations module, it reverses the original gift from Jane's record, and it's going to repost it to Nate's record exactly the same. So that's what that's telling you. We'll click Yes to transfer it over. The new transaction was created. Now you'll notice On the same screen, it's going to show that gift over here under Nate's record, and it is missing from Jane's record here. So that is the transfer donations screen. Again, that's under your Givers tab along the top under the button where it says transfer donations. Next topic we want to cover here in our presentation is marking a particular giver as inactive in the system. This specifically is for donations givers. Now in Church Windows, all of the folks over in the membership module are available to record giving for here in donations. You can also create givers here that only exist in donations that don't also exist over in membership. So we're talking about if there is somebody you've created here as a donations giver that you want to make inactive so that then you can that they don't show up when you're recording giving any longer. It basically is what it does. It's not a name that shows up when you're on your Enter Donations window. In order to do this, you go to your Manage Givers window, either from the Manage Givers button on the opening screen or from the Givers tab where it says Manage Givers at the top here. So either of those buttons will take you to the same place. Here is our list of donations givers. Of givers. The donations givers specifically, you can tell which ones are from the donations module by looking under this column here where it says donations giver. Any record that you see here with a check mark in the box underneath this column is a giver that is from the donations module. So let's say, for example, Carolyn Ames, giver number 5, is no longer going to attend our church. So we don't need to see her name on our donations, Enter Donations window any longer. Over here on the right side of the screen, after you have her name selected on the left side, there's a couple of check boxes here. One is for Receive Statement, the other is for Inactive or Terminated. So if you don't want their name to appear any longer when you're entering donations, you simply put a check mark in the box where it says inactive and terminated. That's all you need to do. So when that is done, going forward, when you are coming here into your Enter Donations window, let's go ahead and set up a donation date for Sunday. When I come over here underneath the giver box and I type in her name, you will not see her appear. If I type in her giver number, which was giver number 5, you'll see all of the giver numbers with a 5 in it, but you will not see Carolyn's record appear here. So for example, that normally is good, but let's say, for example, you marked her as inactive because she moved away. And then after she had moved away, you received a letter with a check in it from her. If you still need to go back and record a gift to somebody who's been marked as inactive or terminated, you can use this checkbox up here at the top. So when we do that, when we put a check mark here for inactive and terminated, now when I type her name, now you can see her, you can select her name, and you can record a gift to her. So that's the way marking folks as inactive in the donations module works. Okay, very good. Next topic we want to cover here today, we're going to cover recording a gift from somebody's estate who has passed away. Then we're going to talk about a topic or two regarding giver numbers here in donations, and that'll kind of sum up what we're going to cover here for our presentation. So the next one is recording a gift from an estate. If the church receives a contribution from the estate of a deceased individual, this is how we recommend you handle it. Kind of regardless, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here, clear donation and close out. kind of regardless of whether they're a terminated person in the membership module or whether they're a record that does not exist in Church Windows at all. This is kind of how we recommend you do this. You want to create a record for that estate here in Donations first. So to do that, you go to your Givers tab, and we recommend clicking on this Add Group button at the top. This is to set up basically an entity that you can record giving to here in Donations. So the group name we're going to create is estate of, and then whoever it is whose estate you're recording this to. You can record any address information or contact or phone number information here if that's appropriate. You can do that on here. And when you've got that information in here, you can click Finished Adding Givers, and it will save that last gift. In the future, when it's time to go ahead and record that gift, whatever date you received the check in the mail, just type in the name here. You'll see that estate listed right here. So you can record a gift to that estate. When you then go and print a donation statement for your members, you will have a statement for the estate of Ted Smith at that point. So that's kind of the way we recommend handling that. Okay, so the next topic we want to hit, that's just a brief summary of how to handle that. Pretty simple usually. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, and I've done it again, I need to clear that gift before I can close that window. The next topic we're going to actually talk about here is kind of working with giver numbers. And one thing that we're going to do, we had a question come in from a participant here, is let's say we want to reassign giver number 5 that from the person who we marked as inactive to somebody else. We are going to cover that topic. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is changing a giver number. So if there is somebody who has a particular number in the system that you want to change to a different number, that's the first example that we want to do. So this can be done in a couple of different places. The simplest place is here back on the Manage Givers window. And the situation where you want to use Manage Givers is where you want to change somebody's giver number and you don't mind their history being changed. Now, all of their gifts will still be there. So all of their history of giving will be unaffected by this. But what it will do is it'll go back as far as they've had that number, and it'll change that number back in the past as well. So if you print old reports from prior years, for example, it'll show the number as you're changing it now. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and go to Brian Henson in our system here. Oop, where is it? 208. Is that the wrong? Oh, Paul Mitchell, my mistake. Giver number 208 is the example I wanted to use. So here's Paul Mitchell with giver number 208. Over on the right side of our screen, there's a series of tabs right here. And you'll notice that the second one is the giver number tab. So I'm going to go ahead and select giver number. You'll notice that it shows their current giver number, which is 208. And it also on this screen shows you the date ranges that they have that number for. That number goes all the way back to the beginning of 2011. So if I were to change their number on this screen, it's going to affect that going all the way back to the beginning of 2011. Sometimes that's fine, sometimes it's not. So if I come in here, let's say I want to change that number to giver number 80. I can type in the new number on here. I hit the tab key on my keyboard. You'll see in the grid over on the left side, it now has their new giver number here, and it also assigns it all the way back to 2011. The system is not going to allow you to change that number to something that somebody during that time range already has. I am hearing that we've lost sound. Everything on my side of the screen here shows that I am still live here. I hope everybody can hear me okay, but everything I can tell on my side is that we're still in good shape here. So I'm going to go forward pretending everybody can hear me. Like I was saying, if I were to try to change this to a number that somebody else has during that time period, and I hit my tab key, it gives me this message. Somebody already has this number, so it will be unable to make that change. Okay, so I'm going to put it back on 80, like we know is available, and it makes that history all the way back to the beginning of 2011. Okay, so that's the first way in which this stuff can be done. The second place you can change numbers is on this Manage Numbers window. So again, this is under the Givers tab, and there's a Manage Numbers window right here. So on this window, what you get is a list of everybody who has a giver number, and it shows you dates that they have those numbers. So it'll have a start date and an end date on here. You can sort this. It is it's sorted alphabetically, as you see here looking at our list. If I wanted this sorted by giver number, I can point my mouse at this number box at the top and left click. And now it's going to sort by giver number. So again, if I scroll down to giver number 80, there's Paul Mitchell, who had, what was it, giver number 208 just a moment ago, now has number 80 going all the way back to the beginning of 2011. So this is where we see that information on here. Okay. So if we wanted to change somebody's number on here, you can really basically change anything on here. The first thing we want to talk about is ending a giver number and assigning it to a different donor. So let's use our example of giver number 5. If I scroll all the way up here to the top, since I've sorted by number order, there's Carolyn Jane Ames with giver number 5. We still see her on the screen. Let's say we want to free that giver number up so that we can assign it to somebody different. In order to do that, we have to end that number on her record. So we can simply click here in the end date box. You've got a couple of different options here. You can end it as of whatever date you wish. If you want this to be ended back to the beginning of 2017 and you want to assign it to somebody else as of January 1st, 2017, you have to end it the day before. So if I wanted to free this number up here in the 2017 year, I would come in here and assign it an end date of December 12/31, 2016. I hit the tab key on my keyboard to lock that in. So now that giver number 5 is available all the way back to the beginning of 2017. If I wanted to then assign that to a new person, I can use this button up here at the top where it says Add New Number, right there. Click on that button. Oh, my mistake. You have to select the person that you're assigning that number to first. So let's give it to one of the other members of the Knox family. Judith Knox didn't have a number. So I'll select Judith Knox, who does not have a giver number right now. You can click your Add New Number button here. I'm going to assign her giver number 5, and I'm going to make that as of January 1st, 2017. When I click OK, it will assign that number. It's valid to do so because that number is available since we gave Carolyn Ames the end date at the end of 2016. Okay, so that's assigning a number to another individual with a different, you assign an end date to the person who used to have the number, then you give it to a new person with a date starting the next day. Okay? Okay, that works if you're not assigning a number to somebody new as well. You don't have to go in and click add new. You can just end somebody's number if you need to do it in that manner as well. And that, folks, is all I have to cover with you here today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're all set to get on with your day, feel free to go ahead and click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. That'll exit you out of the room. So for folks who are taking off, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. For anybody else, I am going to leave the room open for a little bit if you have any additional questions regarding the things we talked about here in class today.